everyone. Welcome back to the Lame Book Club podcast. I'm Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And we are live and in person today. And we're back with our book club.
Yes.
It was very fun doing the indie authors for the month of June, but I'm very excited to be jumping back into Queen of Shadows. I've missed it. It's
bittersweet.
I don't know. I'm just excited.
Yeah. It's a good week.
It's
a good week to be back. I did conquer my fear of flying yet again to be here. So
yes. So everyone
jump through hurdles and loops for you.
It is funny. I feel like, I know there's a lot of people that are like uncomfortable with flying, but I do think it's kind of ironic that we are good friends and we are like, it's not just like, oh, I don't really want to get on a plane. Like, I think you would need to sedate me if I ever got on a plane again, especially with everything that's been coming out lately about Boeing and like the sides of the planes just falling off.
I have to still go home.
You're so right. I'm sorry.
No, I've come up with several tips for those who are scared of flying. So be like me. Number one, I have an app for meditation to start the plane off because it's overstimulating all the people and it's crowded and it's loud. So I put in my headphones and then you do this little, it's called Smiling Mind. My therapist showed it to me a while back. And it just has you kind of zen out for a second. And then as the anxiety comes back in, you do wall sits in your chair. So you're not looking like a little freak in the aisle doing like squats, but like you just literally like sit up and do wall sits. And it makes me so incredibly tired. But also you don't feel the turbulence as bad when you're sitting up like that. It's bizarre, but you don't.
I also have some tips and tricks if anyone is interested. It's called Ambien and alcohol. Knock me
You're
out.
gonna wake up like Kristen Wiig in Bridesmaid.
Exactly.
There's a woman on the wing.
She's churning butter. There's something they're not telling us. Also, one of my favorite movies ever. We were just talking about it yesterday. But anywho, back to business. If you haven't already listened to our Hot Goss episode that came out on Monday, go do so. But only if you have read both of the books that have come out so far in the Empyrean series, so Fourth Ring and Iron Flame. We are talking all things Venin. I decided to come up with a funny name this time, and I named it It's Veninin, to look a lot like theories. So in the beginning, I can't stop. The beninins reminded me of that little.
I got it.
Anyways,
I got it.
But it's good. We talk about Naolin, Brennan, signets, bonds, all the things. So go check that out if you haven't already. And our next episode is a book club episode. Next Wednesday is going to be our last Queen of Shadows episode. It's going to be chapters 76 through 89. That's part 5. And then after that, we'll be moving into Empire of Stars.
Yes.
AKA tied for my favorite book in the series.
Yes.
So
I'm pumped.
We had talked about doing the podcast in the same order as the tandem read since you did the tandem read too, right? Yeah. We both did the tandem read. I just feel like for the sake of podcasting, it's going to be very confusing if we did that. So
you're going to put me through Tower of Dawn.
I know. I'm going to put everyone through Tower. Myself. Alone by itself. Honestly, we could just recap it all in one episode.
No, absolutely not.
We sure could.
We can't do that to everyone. What if people like Tower of Dawn? I've seen many people say that they like Tower of Dawn.
I have yet to see that, but it's okay.
Maybe just let us know what you guys want. Should we shorten that one
or I mean, if you want, we can power through and do it as the tandem. I'm fine with that. I just felt like it would be confusing.
Yeah.
From
we'll put a poll on Instagram and we'll see what everybody wants. Speaking of Instagram, guess what?
What?
We are so close to 10,000 whole followers.
Woohoo!
Thanks for being here. And with that being said, once we hit that point, or once we hit our 1-year anniversary, which will be August, whichever comes first, we are doing a giveaway where we're partnering with Cozy Cabin Co.
Yes.
And they are giving us one of their candles to also do the giveaway. And so we'll have some fun merch from Lame Book Club Pod and a candle and snacks, and it's going to be great.
Yep.
We'll post it all soon.
Yes. Yeah, we'll post more details about it on our Instagram as it gets a little closer, but we're excited. We hope you guys are excited about that. Oh, speaking of which, tote, that is going to be part of the, was I pointing at it?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't.
I didn't really
Yes, that's going to be part of the giveaway. So anyways, very exciting. And thank you all again for being here, for listening. If you don't already follow us on social media, please do. It's at Lane Book Club Pod on all platforms. Subscribe on YouTube. If you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts specifically, like a written one, those tend to push our algorithm a little bit more. But regardless, just listening and being here, it's fun. Our community has grown a lot, and we're very excited to
love
see.
it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We love
Thank you
chatting.
again for being here. And with that, we're ready to jump in. Ellie,
Yeah.
are you ready to start talking about chapter 57?
Yeah. Also, I feel like when we're online doing that question, there's
Yeah.
always just a little bit too long of a gap. So you're like, are you ready?
Yeah.
So this is nice.
It's nice to
This
not
is
have
luxury.
the delay. All right. Well, some quick, since it's been about a month, some quick context. We ended the last episode with Aelin, Chaol, Rowan, Nezrin. I think that was it. But that group, they were going to get Lysandra back from Oakwald because Lysandra had been taken by the king because it came out that she was magical. So he was taking her to Morath. She's a shifter, whatever powers.
Yeah.
So they are on their way to try and rescue her. So that's where we pick up. And in chapter 57, moral of that one is Aelin is promising Chaol that she won't kill Dorian during Lysandra's rescue. We're really starting off strong. Then at the Oakwald meeting,
He's such a wet willy.
gross.
not.
At the Oakwald meeting, the Valg prince inside Dorian squirms at Manon's gold eyes because they are the same eyes as the revered Valg kings. Manon manages to break through to Dorian, who remembers his name before losing control again to the Valg. When the Blackbeak matron shows the king of Otterlin the weapon the matrons had been making for him, Aedion and Nezrin cause a disturbance with the Wyverns to distract the 13 so that they're get out of there, not a distraction for them anymore. Rowan, Aelin, and Chaol then silently rescue Lysandra from the prison wagon. And then the king departs without even checking the wagon, and the witches transport it back to Morath empty. That, to me, I remember reading it, and I was like, oh, like first time, I was like, yes, they got her. Woof.
Yeah.
Everyone's safe. And then I, like, rereading it, I was like, what an idiot. Clearly something was happening. Like, the Wyverns, the things were going, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you just do a quick looky-loo to make sure everything is accounted for? Like, the one person that you specifically want to take to this place so that you can do weird and gross things to them because of their abilities.
You want to know my honest thought?
Always.
I have literally zero recollection of any of this. When you were
way.
like, when Lysandra got captured, I was like, she did?
Yes.
I don't
You don't remember that?
know.
Okay, well, maybe
And as
this will
you're
trigger-
reading it, I thought, oh, I'll pick it up as she goes on.
You don't-
Zero.
This is
I
when
do
Dorian
remember.
and
I remember
Manon
Dorian and
meet.
Manon. I
This
do
is their
remember
first-
that.
Yeah.
No idea about Lysandra. No idea.
Okay,
So-
well, maybe this will trigger.
Okay.
Because then this is when Manon's grandma reveals that she approves of the Duke's vulgar experiments on the witches and then slashes her face.
I remember that.
Okay, so that was
All the bordering events I remember.
You just
the
don't
main
remember? Fascinating.
long-term memory was like, send it back. And it just gone.
Inside out.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, well, moving on. Dorian remembers Manon's name even as he's overcome by the Valg Prince. And Chaol departs from the group to kill Dorian as a mercy, but is spotted by the 13, who then capture him. We're going to pause here for a second. I have some notes. I
you
was so, again, first time around, didn't think too much of it. Second time around, I'm like, I hate this. He has spent this entire book not just like begging people to not kill Dorian, specifically Aelin, but like getting angry, like to the point where he is then like criticizing other aspects of her as an individual because he's mad that she wants to kill his bestie.
Did you feel that?
The heir?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
It
kicked
was Chaol's backbone fleeing from the situation.
Okay.
He stands for nothing.
He stands for nothing.
He's a wet willy. Is that a thing? He's
It is
so.
now.
I don't know if you see my face. He gives me the ick.
Well-
He just is like, please don't kill him. I love him. But Daddy, I love him.
But Daddy,
and then he's like, I'll kill him.
That's where it was. I'm like, just the sudden flip, and like he like refused to accept that Dorian wasn't still inside. So I like, honestly, I do understand. Like, I think it's a lot easier having it like my best friend not be in that situation to be like, what an idiot. But like, I do understand like believing, like fighting, like there's hope. He's there. Like we can get him back.
Yeah.
But then it just felt like such a flick of the
flop.
wrist. Yeah. And then
here's the thing too. He goes to make this honorable choice in his mind.
Yeah.
And then gets captured. He can't even do it.
Well, and that's the other thing too. And I'm like, multiple times there could have been many people that could have helped and could have done this. But then when he decides, nope, it is going to be a mercy. Let me do this for him. He's by himself. Like, it almost feels like a weird hero complex. Like, but at the same time, I know that wasn't his goal. It's just like the worst timing and the worst decision making I've ever seen, outside of a couple others that I'm not going to mention on this. But if you've listened to more of our Hot Goss episodes, you know how I feel about some other SJM characters too.
I think
it's just so on brand for him.
What makes Chaol kind of like the governing authority on Dorian's life? Like, he's like, no one kill him. I can understand that for the good of nobody kill anybody. You know, like that's a rule. That's for the good.
Yeah.
But then him being like, never mind, I'll kill him. Yeah. Who are you?
Like, and Aylin's like, trust me, you don't know what this, like, Aylin has personal experience of what it feels like to be in his shoes.
Exactly.
And she's like, trust me, this will be a mercy.
Yes.
And we all, I mean, to be fair, Chaol doesn't get his inside mind, but we also are all reading Dorian's thing of like, just kill me, please kill me, end
I think
this.
Dorian says it at one point.
That's what I'm saying.
He?
Like, or Dorian's like, end this. Like,
like, kill me.
Yeah, he's like begging Aylin to kill her.
What is
kill
that
him.
thing? Hello.
Oh yeah,
you need to kill me.
Hi, yeah. What is he? This the Trump thing, but I don't remember how it starts.
Excuse me.
There it is.
I need your help.
You need to kill me. That's it. But yes, and then for him to be like, no, and then I don't know. I could talk about this forever, but it just was so on brand for him, and it was irritating.
This scene was Chaol's entire personality. Never mind, I changed my mind, and then gets captured.
Yeah. So then Aylin, Rowan, and Aedion realize he's missing and follow his scent to the witches now holding him captive. Aylin reveals her identity and bargains to be taken instead of Chaol. Not worth it. But how nice of her to still be willing to do that after he's been such trash garbage to her.
Yes, and I actually have something to say to that. Do you all remember? I'm like expecting an answer back from
I'll
the air.
answer.
Do you remember the reel we posted of if you could pick one SJM character to save you, who would you choose? And so many people were like Nesta, Feyre, and that's good answers.
Yeah.
But this one makes me want to pick Aylin because how trash he's treated her, and she was like, "I'll go in your place." Also, I'd pick Bryce. I think.
I don't know. I don't want to get into that. Aylin covertly sketches word marks into the dirt while she's revealing to Manon that she's the one who killed Baba Yellowlegs. Mm-hmm. And that provokes Manon, who attacks her, but then is frozen in place by said word marks. Aylin and her companions flee into the forest towards two bridges that cross a ravine and lead towards a stone temple. When the 13 arrive, Rowan leaps in front of one of Astron's arrows meant for Aylin's heart.
This was a big moment. Mm-hmm. This specifically, but I'm just going to backtrack a little. Yeah. Because this was the first time Aylin met the 13. Mm-hmm. And so far we've read the 13's whole story, kind of like a Game of Thrones situation where you're in someone else's perspective and then you bounce back to somebody else and they've never crossed paths. So this is the first time they're finally meeting.
Yeah.
And I really thought it would be under different circumstances that they'd be like, we're going to join together and rebel together. But instead they attack her.
Yeah. And again, all because of Chaol. Aylin screams when the arrow pierces Rowan's shoulder, and Aedion keeps the 13 near the tree line with his adept archery, but Manon manages to cut across the first bridge. Aylin uses the blood oath to force Rowan to run across the second bridge and stays behind on the stone island with the temple to face Manon. They're fighting.
I loved that.
I know. And she maneuvers the fight so that Manon's blows damage the foundational pillars holding up the temple. And then when the temple and the island begin to collapse, Aylin flees but turns back and ends up saving Manon, which causes Manon to believe that she owes Aylin a life debt.
Which she does.
Absolutely.
Have you personally ever owed someone a life debt?
A life debt?
Yeah.
Can't say that I have. Have you?
Not that I can remember off the top of my head.
Don't feel like those get tossed around too often anymore. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to do like any minor help. It's okay. You can owe me one. You owe me a life
So
debt.
Dwight Schrute of you. You owe me one.
That is, yes. That's what I'm like, why does that sound so familiar? It's that episode.
Uh-huh.
And here we go. Reason joining the group chat. Aelin is angry with Chaol for putting them all in danger, but also understands his motivations. What else is new? They escape the forest and bring Rowan to a midwife at Nezrin's family farm who patches him up. And in the morning, they journey back to Rifthold. Manon mulls over the weapon her grandma made for the king. The battle towers lined with sacred mirrors capable of amplifying power such as Kaltain's Shadowfire and created for mass destruction. She visits the king, tells him that the rebels freed Lysandra, and claims that she had killed them all. In Morath, Vernon catches a lead before she can escape on a supply wagon and is placed in a dungeon cell.
A lead, my girl, cannot catch
Catch a break. This poor lady. Her mangled ankle. She can't do leave.
Anything. Yeah.
She's not even asking for money or anything. She's just trying to get out of there.
I know.
And she gets caught. Manon is summoned by Duke Parrington, who offers her reports on the events of the kingdom. She learns that recent actions of Aelin, Aedion, and Chaol through these reports. She learns of their actions and infers that in Oakwald, Chaol meant to kill his childhood friend Dorian to free him of the Wordstone Collar. Manon realizes that Aelin and her companions don't know that Dorian is still inside, but she does because she had that conversation with him.
Yeah, I got chills.
Privately, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a really hard time talking about this part. Privately, Astrid tells Manon her life story. 80 years ago, Astrid was injured in a storm while hunting Kraken witches. A human hunter nursed her back to health, and for 5 months, they were in a romantic relationship. I just also want to side note this here. I'm curious what the Blackbeaks all thought was happening to her during this time, because she was gone for 5 months. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
do they just think she died?
maybe.
That's so sad that no one went. I mean, I'm assuming no one went out looking for her or anything.
I also don't know how closely they all
I know
stuck together.
Her grandma's whole thing is not you don't care about other people. They're
Right.
expendable. You're a warrior. So I understand.
But I think we get so much of the group, just even logistically speaking, we get so much of the group setting because they all were brought to Morath for a specific purpose. So all the witches were all in the same room and constantly training and stuff.
Well,
if they didn't have a specific mission, they probably just lived their own lives and came together when need be.
Well, they were the 13 before.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this group at least was close beforehand.
Yeah, but if they didn't need, yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, for friendship's sake, I get it. Where was
Well,
she?
and we also are humans,
just- yeah.
with beating hearts, unlike
Yeah,
the matron of the
that's
Blackbeaks.
true.
And we will get into that in just a second. When Astrid returned back to the Blackbeak Keep, she was pregnant. She told only Manon's grandma, and when the baby was stillborn, the matron didn't allow Astrid to see the baby before burning it. And then to add insult to injury, she beat her and branded her with the word unclean on her stomach.
I think I cried during this when I read this for the first time.
1000% cried. This was so terrible.
SJM
Astrid-
writes torture and
She does it so well. Oh my
loss
word.
so intensely.
Yeah. But it gets you. Astrid would often fly over the hunter's home for the rest of his life, but never dared to return. So Astrid begs Manon to disobey her grandma and refuse to offer up a Blackbeak clan for breeding. And Manon, in response, reinstates her as her second, which is the only appropriate thing to do in that situation. Jeez, and honestly, it was so hard to read, but it really was so well written, and it was so pivotal to Manon's character development because, I mean, this whole book, her whole storyline, really, we're getting more of her and how she's unlearning all the things that she's been taught and was told.
I think too, like the emotionally hard to read portions of this book are what creates such depth in her books, and that is why we get so attached to them.
Totally.
Because I think without this story, I think it would have less weight in my life. Like I wouldn't look back on the series and be like, amazing. Like this story was very pivotal.
Like when I think about the 13 or even just like the series, I'm like, oh man, I love Manon. I love Astrid. Like, and I really don't think I would include Astrid in like my list of favorite characters if we didn't have this. I mean, she was great. Like, and there was nothing wrong with her, but there was also nothing like that made her stand out until we got this. Cause then you're like, oh my gosh, now you like it just makes all of her previous actions so much more impactful. So totally agree. Aelin hands Lysandra a letter from Madame Clarice confirming that Aelin had paid off all of Lysandra and Evangeline's debts, so now they're free. Also, their friendship, 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Astrid and Manon fly to Rifthold rather than returning to Morath like they were told.
Right. The relationships in this story, now that we've really become more established with Aelin and Lysandra, because I didn't want to say too much when we first started realizing that Aelin was suspicious of her, but like it goes Aelin and Rowan, Aelin and Lysandra, the rest. Even Manon and Dorian, I'm just just group them into like, it was good. But Aelin and Lysandra's enemies to friends, frenemies situation was so good.
So good.
I love a girl friendship. I love it.
We've talked about that before and agreed. Their friendship is top of the list for me in this.
You got such a heavy backstory with them and how much they hated each other, and rightfully so, and how icky you felt about Lysandra in the beginning with just her. I mean, she was sold into this lifestyle, but like she was kind of taking pride in it too, and so we hate it. And then you get kind of the redemption, and you understand where she's coming from, and then it was so good.
Well, we just learned like how they were literally pitted against each other without like them knowing. So good. I really like it'll go, I don't know, I don't want to, we'll talk on this part later. There's another friendship that I really enjoy in this, but it hasn't quite developed yet, so I'm not gonna. Alid has spent also in this, we're jumping back to Morath. Alid has spent 4 days in the dungeons and doesn't believe anyone is going to come for her.
Oh, I remember that.
I know.
That broke my heart.
My girl, Alid.
She's like, she genuinely is like, nobody remembers me.
Yeah.
And even if they remember me,
no
nobody
one's
cares
gonna risk
enough.
it. Exactly. Oh. Rowan finds Lorcan on the apartment roof in the middle of the night. Lorcan has killed all of the Wordhounds who've come after him, and he convinces Rowan to exchange the Volg immunity ring for the Amulet of Orinth. But our boy Rowan is no fool. Rowan gives him a fake amulet with a dead Volg commander's ring inside. The ring also radiates an otherworldly power similar to a word key, so Lorcan doesn't realize the difference. I love this part because
smart. What are you, wicked smart?
This is the first time we've seen Rowan pull an Aelin. He just made a decision, made a plan, and did something without telling anyone. And then later on, like, reveals what he did. And I just liked that how the turntables have turned. Aelin and Chaol have a genuine talk where he apologizes for his recent behavior and his failure to protect her friend Nehemia. Aelin apologizes as well and admits that his friendship means a lot to her. They come to terms with the end of their romantic relationship, and each believes that the other deserves happiness. This conversation...
I saw your note just now.
This was so mid for me, like the second half of that. The apology and everything was great. I really liked that they were like admitting, finally. I mean, Aelin certainly was not perfect in this, but I felt like all of her things were reactionary to Chaol being so unhinged. But okay, great. They both apologized. Excellent. But then it was so clear that their romantic relationship was over and done with. So like, I really did not need them to even address it. Like I was like, you know what? Why are we bringing this back up? I thought you guys had totally moved on a while ago. So
if I may, I'm going to list my grievances and then I'm going to state my stance. Number 1, she shifts into Faye and he literally gags in his mouth. and then leaves. Number 2, then sends her off for her own good, which is a point in his direction.
Yeah.
But then like gets bitter and angry that she's gone, but he sent her off, and then she comes back and he's like, don't speak to me.
He's the definition of one
What are we
step
on,
forward,
3,
2
4?
steps back.
Yeah.
2, 3.
Keeps getting mad at her for trying to like do the right thing.
Yeah.
Is like, well, we just can't trust you. You just like slept with her. Like,
Yeah.
you don't trust her.
Yeah.
You were all about her, literally in love with her. And she was a criminal at that point, and you trusted her that much. Like, and now, I don't know. There was so much that spoke to her character that he knew.
Well, and the other thing is he was never fully on board with the fact that she was a criminal.
Yeah,
Like, it was
that
always in
too.
the back of his
He was
mind.
literally like, what was she? The assassin.
Yeah.
And he'd be like,
You
you're not
killed-
really assassinating people, are you?
You're an assassin, but you don't actually assassinate.
All of these grievances, plus a million more, I'm sure you're all thinking in the back of your heads, lead me to this stance. I wouldn't be friends with him.
Aelin is better than I.
She is.
But
I don't know if I would have traded my life in. I'd be like, and good riddance.
well, and then
That's so bad.
right after this, I want to say this, and I wrote this out in particular because this is exactly how my thoughts were when reading the book. And so I want to set the record straight. So mid apology conversation for me, the romantic aspect that didn't need it. Immediately after, Chaol goes and with Nesrin, and he suggests a relationship between them, and she agrees to it. But then I think, like, again, second time reading, hindsight is always 20/20. The first time I didn't really think too much about it. Second time, I think I would have been so, like, I'm taking back everything I just said about the romantic, like, they didn't need to address the romantic part, because I think if they hadn't, and they just, like, apologized, whatever, and he did the exact same thing, take the romantic conversation out of the initial apology.
Sure.
He just left and went and asked out Nesrin. I would have been like, are you kidding me? They've never officially resolved. No one, like, they've never actually broken up. And this boy is just almost killing all of them and then going and moving on with this other girl that he used to sleep with, like, all this stuff. And I think, so, like, with that in the back of my mind, I am glad that Sarah brought it back up and addressed it. I just think the timing of it was kind of weird for me.
I'm actually almost the opposite of you. I would not have minded if he would have just ended with, I hope you find happiness or something like that, and left it at that, instead of like, no romantic relationship can be continued between us. Can we handshake on that?
No, they did leave it on let's find happiness. They just addressed the romantic
No,
aspect
but like,
of it
don't
first.
address it at all, but just kind of have that like, hey, I'm sorry, you're sorry. We silently agree. Like, I feel like I could have deduced from there.
Yeah.
They're not and she's already started this fling with Rowan. Like, we know that they're not going to end up back together. And then he goes and like, I feel like him then hitting on Nesrin after that would be the confirmation of, okay, that conversation was the closure.
Yeah.
So I almost am the opposite, that I find it more of an ick that he was like, so we're done, right? Thumbs up.
I think his character bothers me so much that if
He can do no right.
exactly
Both ways, gross.
if he had breathed in the wrong direction, I would have been like, you're kidding. And
If he would have ended up actually saving Dorian, I would have been like,
he should have known Dorian wanted to die. So for me, it was good that it was addressed, because I know myself, and I know I would have been like, and on top of everything, he didn't even ask, like, they didn't even resolve this aspect of their relationship. So
he can't win. But
all that to say, I, on the internet, am saying that I take back what I said
about what?
about it being mid. Like, I knew that this was coming next, and I still wrote it out because I wanted everyone to understand how my thought process was reading it. Because I was like,
So your final
I'm
thing
so
is it's
upset.
not mid.
Yes, I'm so upset that they brought this up, and it was so unnecessary. And then, like, 3 pages later, I'm like, I'm so glad they actually addressed it, because I would have been irritated right now if they hadn't.
All right, my final stance is it was mid. That's it.
All right, the plan is for Rowan and Adian to set off hellfire in the sewers beneath the tower, while Chaol and Aelin kill the king and Dorian, because Chaol's on board now, apparently, with killing him. Aelin and Rowan smoochy kiss for the first time, might I add.
Oh,
This is the first time.
Nice.
And he holds her through the night, finally.
Oh.
Aelin refuses Lysandra's help and orders her and Evangeline to leave the city for safety. While buying breakfast at a local market, Aelin sees one of the messages Manon had written on a building or multiple buildings throughout Rifthold in Volg blood. It said, "Witch killer. The human is still inside of him."
Chills again.
I know. I love that she called her witch killer too.
Uh-huh.
Thus notifying Aelin that Dorian was still battling the Volg prince for dominance. And this was Manon's payment for her life debt.
Mm-hmm.
And on behalf of everyone in the Massiverse, we thank you, Manon. Dorian, and like he might not be like my most favorite, but I love him.
No, I love him too.
Yeah.
He's good.
Aelin pretends to be the king's loyal champion, Selena Sardothian, bringing a pretend chained Chaol into the castle as an offering. However, as Chaol and Aelin approach, they're stunned to find the bodies of Chaol's loyal guards hanging from the castle
this was
fence.
a hard chapter to read.
That was
that messed Chaol up for.
Okay. Honestly,
That would mess anyone up.
it did, but I'm really not trying to harp on this. I'm just being so real with you guys. This scene would have been so much more impactful if it had been for anyone except for Chaol, because he's already so like hit or miss. Like you never know what he's so unhinged. That's not the word I'm thinking of. I don't know. He's just so unpredictable. That's what I was trying to say. And so I was like, if I was Aelin, I'd be like, all right, bro, play your part. Like you say you're on board with this. Like, let's do what you're saying. And then for this, and this messes him up so bad, I would have been like that freaking sucks.
Yeah.
About all these people. But I felt like he just has such a victim mentality. He, instead of being like, oh my gosh, their families are going to be sad, like these lives are ended, he said, this was my fault.
Oh, yeah.
And
that
like,
was a like,
I do
okay, way to
understand,
make
like,
it about you. I mean, it kind of was.
But well, that's what I'm
But
saying. Like,
it was so, I totally agree with you. I did have the knee-jerk reaction immediately of like,
this is not
think about
you,
literally
Chaol.
anyone else, like their families or
Yeah.
like your relationships with each one, not like, this is on me.
This is my, well, and like, yes.
Because then also,
yes,
you have to
invited
go
them.
through this whole
Unraveling,
journey with Chaol
exactly.
about healing. And I'm like, I don't want to do this with him. I wanted it to be done.
Well, and I'm like, I thought we had the apology.
I know. 30 seconds of peace straight to Chaol's next turmoil.
Well,
Which
and like,
in
I get
turn
it.
signed us up for an entire book.
We're not there yet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I just was like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think if I had been the ringleader and invited all of these people in for a cause that had ultimately killed them, they're absolutely, like, I would feel guilty.
Yes.
I'm not saying he shouldn't feel guilty, but like he shut down, and it was because of himself. It had nothing to do with that. And like, that's what irritated me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're grown men. You can invite someone to something and then be like, no thanks, that's not for me. They made the choice to also fight for this. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying that he shouldn't feel bad, but they made the, like, they knew what the risk was.
Yeah.
And they still chose to do it. And it's because that's what they believed in. So like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be sad because it's a terrible thing.
I agree.
But also, like, know that they died like for doing something that they believed in. Like,
For me, it really hits harder to the point, not so much that, honestly, if I'm just being completely honest, them dying, Chaol blaming it on himself, that was all. I feel like I didn't have too much of a real reaction to that. I was like, oh yeah, that's awful. And I feel for him and that's really sad. What really devastated me about this was just that I knew that Chaol was going to have so much more story
Yeah.
to him when I really wanted him to start being written out, because I did not care for his character at all at this point.
this did feel like a good exit for him.
It was a good, like, let's just be done.
Yeah.
But then now that he has this trauma, and I'm like, okay, so all things are going to be about him again.
Yeah.
And you know how SJM was writing with like the perspective of each character for different
Yeah.
chapters. I was like, now we're going to get a bunch of him, and I don't want to be in his head anymore. So
Yeah.
that's where it was more selfish,
Yeah.
if anything, for me to be like, I just don't want to read about him.
that. I mean, there was an element of that for me as well.
Yeah.
But they persist. Aelin enters the castle and finds the king and provides replica rings from the king and crown prince of Wenlin, both whom Selena was sent to kill. However, the ruse fails. The king immediately reveals that he knows her true identity.
Ooh.
And part of me was like,
Swing and a miss.
part of me was like, oh wow, I didn't expect it to go downhill that quickly. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I'm like, I don't know, like, this guy's not stupid. I know. You can't
And
like
she was gone for so long in Wendelin. Like he had no suspicions of like maybe she's not who she said she was.
but
You
also,
hear all the rumors.
Yeah,
about
I was just
the-
about to say, but like you're
Yes.
telling me that you don't think this guy can use critical thinking
Yeah.
to like Rowan and Adian make it to the Wordstone Tower and set up the Hellfire urns and start unspooling the long fuse to set off the blast. However, they are interrupted by 7 none other than Wordhounds. Rowan realizes that Lorcan had lied about killing them and instead gave them Rowan's scent. What a jerk.
Very smart though.
So
Very
we
smart.
But we don't care if it's smart. We
No,
love
but
Rowan.
credit where credit's due.
No.
That was a smart move.
No.
We love Rowan.
Well, I guess Rowan also pulled one over on him, so
Yeah.
tomato. Rowan and Adian are unable to destroy the tower by noon, delayed by the attacking Wordhounds. Aelin distracts the king with a replica of the Eye of Elena and runs from the throne room. Dorian pursues her, leaving Kael with the king.
You got this.
Are you good, buddy? Aelin jumps from an open window to
If
escape.
ever there was someone to not leave with the king,
It's Kael.
it's Kael in this exact moment.
Aelin jumps from an open window to escape Dorian's deadly ice magic, landing on the glass bridge a level below. Kael plans to sacrifice his life to buy Aelin alone time with Dorian so that she
Just
can have a
don't.
chance. I literally, I'm not kidding you guys.
about
In
just
my notes,
stop it?
I wrote, "Here we go again." Kael trying to be a hero in the worst possible time and
it's
place.
Like, okay, honestly, if I'm being like totally just unbiased, like really looking from, I don't know, I am on the outside looking in. This is my real personality,
This
but
is not my story.
I can see Kael's a good man.
well, and
and
like
he
his
is trying
heart.
his best.
His best is so bad.
And everyone comes at us for like, but the character arc. But like, this is the character arc. I don't know. And also, he just like, not that humans are, I mean, I'm human, but like no powers. And then you're like, I'm going to kill it. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I
You're
know.
not. Maybe
I
sit with
know.
this one out.
I know. You're the heart. I love your heart, buddy.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Let the big boys take this
It's like,
one.
let's just sit at the kids' table
Yeah.
for this one.
And unsurprisingly, the king with powers levels all his dark Volg magic
What?
at Kael. For the exact reason we told him to sit at the king's table.
No, I feel like
It
a mean girl
happens.
with this whole conversation, but it's a fictional character, so it's okay, I think.
Dorian cannot remember Aelin. He can only sense how much the Volg prince wishes to kill her. Dorian follows Aelin to the glass bridge where he stabs her in the side with a dagger of ice. Switching back to the sewers, Lorcan suddenly appears to help Adian and Rowan.
That was a plot twist.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to happen. Together, they dispatch the Wordhounds, light the fuse, and destroy the tower, returning magic to Aurelia. Just then,
Ooh,
they are confronted
huge
by
shift in the story from that. Loved it. Loved
literally, because the magic shifted back.
it. Literally.
Just then, they are confronted by 100 Volg soldiers. Aelin slips the immunity ring onto Dorian's finger. The Volg inside is unable to remove the ring and lashes out with Dorian's ice. Aelin counters then with her fire. Adian and Rowan are both injured. Even with Lorcan's help, they're losing against the Volg forces. But suddenly, Lysandra appears in ghost leopard form and kills the remaining soldiers before running to the castle. And that, my
my girl.
friends, is where we're ending today on such... It's funny because I was doing this outline and I'm reading, we're on like chapters like 72, 73, and I'm like, oh crap. I was like, this is going to be like how all of our other episodes ended on, and Dorian was so depressed he wanted to kill himself. Have a great week. Like,
Happy Monday.
no, Wednesday. But this
one ends
I know,
in a
I was
real
like, thank
cliffhanger.
God, this one ended better than
Yeah.
how I was expecting. I couldn't remember exactly when everything happened.
Yeah, that was a good one. Didn't leave too much like it didn't feel like a half sentence where we're like, all right, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah. And next week is the ending, which is also crazy and so good. Literally cannot wait to talk about it.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for being here. Like, subscribe if you don't already. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on Monday for Hot Goss.
Bye everyone.